In Kenya also, a man was arrested at Nairobi's main airport this week with more than 2,200 live garden ants in his luggage amid a rise in cases of insect smuggling in Kenya. Chinese national Zhang Kekung, who's 27 years, was arrested at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on Tuesday while he was trying to leave the country, court filings seen by Reuters on Tuesday showed. Immigration officials flagged a stop order on Zhang's passport after he evaded arrest in Kenya last year. Ant aficionados pay large sums to maintain colonies in large transparent vessels known as formicariums, which offer a literal window into the species' complex social structures and behaviors. Last year, 4 men were fined 7,700 each for trying to traffic thousands of ants valuable to Kenya's ecosystem in a case that experts said signaled a shift in biopiracy from trophies like elephant ivory to lesser-known species. Investigators said a search on Zhang's luggage recovered 2,238 ants, including 1,948 packed in test tubes and the rest in 3 rolls of super soft papers. They said Zhang had been in Kenya for 2 weeks and mentioned 3 accomplices who supplied him with the ants. In Ghana also, the government has declared Friday, March 20th and Saturday, March 21st, 2026 as statutory public holidays to mark this year's Eid al-Fitr and Shag Day celebrations. Minister for Interior Munchaka Mohammed Mubarak announced that an additional public holiday will be observed on Monday, March 23rd because one of the statutory holidays falls on a weekend. The minister stated the general public is hereby informed that Friday 20th March and Saturday 21st March 2026 mark Eid al-Fitr and Shag days, which are statutory public holidays. He explained that since March 21 falls on Saturday, His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama has issued an executive instrument declaring Monday, March 23rd as an additional public holiday across the country. According to the Interior Minister, the decision was taken in line with Section 2 of the Public Holidays and Commemorative Days Act 2001, Act 601, which allows the President to declare an extra holiday when a statutory public holiday falls on a weekend. And also, prices of petroleum products are set to increase by a significant margin from March 16, 2026. That's according to the latest outlook report by the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, COMAC, which guides pricing decisions for oil marketing companies and was seen by Joy Business. Based on the report, a liter of petrol is expected to increase by 16.93%, while diesel will go up by 17.21%. LPG, on the other hand, will be increased by 11.26%. This is about the 4th time since January this year that fuel prices have been projected to rise. However, this is the first time this year that we witness such a significant margin of increase per liter for each petroleum product. COMAC's data shows that the price of petrol is expected to increase by 16.93% and could result in a liter going for 14.32 Ghana cedis. The price of diesel is projected to rise by 17.21%, and this should result in a liter being sold at 16.10. Liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) will go up by 11.26%. Many thanks for staying with us on the Focus on Z101.9 FM. We'll take a very short breather here. When we come back, my guest, Dr. Kenneth Kwadwo Obeng, will join me in analyzing the rising global oil prices and what it means for Ghana's economy. Do not go away.
101.9 FM.
Let's be honest, we all want more without paying more. That's why Melcom is giving you more for less. From groceries to home essentials, fashion, electronics, and more. You get Melcom gives you more for less. Melcom, your #1 shopping destination.
Pray for change. Country hot, chale, kala kala.
Petroleum products prices, that is LPG, diesel, and petrol, But what can the Ghanaian economy do? Because the prices appear to be is going to be on a rise, on an increase, and this may not be the first and last of such an increase, especially when we can't see an end in sight of the issue in the Middle East. And I've been joined online by Dr. Kenneth Kwadwo Obeng, but who helped me have this conversation. Dr. Obeng, good morning.
Morning, my brother.
Yes, and I trust you're doing well.
Yeah, by His grace.
And absolutely. I mean, it's been a while we had you on the show. I'm happy you're keeping well.
Yes, by grace, I'm very fine and kicking very well.
Absolutely. All right, doctor. I mean, today, we're talking about oil prices. Last week we looked a lot about the conflict, this whole Iran, Israeli and American conflict. Now, this conflict, which appeared to be a fight between some people somewhere, now appears to be affecting us all. And now we are being told that by March 16, prices of petroleum products are going to go high. First, let me find out from you, what are your initial or general thoughts on this conflict before we zoom into, Ghana's efforts to hedging against the effects?
Well, thank you, and good morning to your cherished listeners. This is a very broad subject, very broad topic. The conflict in the Middle East is as old as Methuselah himself. And it has taken a very long time for the United Nations to be able to resolve this issue. And it's basically between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And we all recall that the UN resolutions have all been over with the need for the existence of two states that could be seen to be bringing the kind of peace that we all anticipate. But this two states solution by the UN has not been able to come into fruition because some Arab states do not support this two states idea, and the fact that they believe that the land belongs to the Arabs or the Palestinians, and therefore they see the Israelis as intruders and must be wiped out from the territory that they are occupying now as the Israeli state. And Israel too has also seen itself as the legitimate owner of the land, and it has brought this conflict to this far. We all remember the role that was played by the late Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat, where these two states solution nearly came into fruition. But upon his demise, the issue came up again with this fight as for who should possess the land. And this has really affected peace in the Middle East. And we all know that all the oil and the natural gas and all the related products that come from oil basically come from the Middle East.
Yeah.
The area around Kuwait, Iraq, Iran, and all the way to the Gulf states contribute to about 80% of the world's oil production. And where it passes, the majority or the bulk of the quantity passes is the Strait of Hormuz, which is very close to Iran. And it is somehow like a peninsula which protrudes into the land around that area, close rather to Iran, which is about 83 kilometers stretch between Iran and the edge of the peninsula, where the pass is true for this oil to pass through and distributed across the world. The bulk going to India and China, Japan, and we all know the population of these countries.
Yeah.
And then also passing through the Red Sea to come and use the Suez Canal to go to Europe, which is also a very close distance, very short distance. So if this Strait of Hormuz is closed, as we are seeing right now, then it means this quantum sum of oil will not be available to the whole world, and especially the Far East, and then also to Europe, and possibly through to the US across the Atlantic. And it is a very critical role that this oil issue is coming up at this time. So if some solution is not found immediately, then it means there will surely be crisis, and oil prices are, as we speak, hovering around $100 a barrel, and if it's to increase further, as the Iranians are predicting, then it means there's going to be a very serious cost-push inflation that normally arises from some of these inputs as a result of increase in their prices, especially oil, natural gas, and the related products.
Interesting. But let me find out, and the listeners who ask that the Strait of Hormuz, it's just a channel for about 20% of world oil. Why should just the 20% blockade dictate to the entire world prices when we have the 80% scattered across? Why should just the 20% now be so much of concern to us that our prices are going to rise?
Yes, it is significant because the other oil sources are from Russia and then the Central Americas. And Russia is under sanctions for selling its oil.
Yeah.
Recently, India was taking oil from Russia, and the US came up strongly to stop them from picking oil from here. And the population of India is so huge. Pakistan is also there. Then you talk about China itself, and then Japan. So these countries, and of course, Malaysia and others that are also within the Far East area. So the oil from the Hormuz region is critical because it is a short distance, the shortest distance to the Far East, and it's also the shortest distance to Europe. So if Russian oil is under blockade, then the best oil that we can get at a cheaper price is from the Hormuz Strait, and it is critical to the world's oil production.
That's interesting.
Yes.
So now that we have this situation at hand, let's first look at it from African countries. Now, some African countries are reported to have some crude oil, but we appear not to know exactly what to do with it. Now, what can us as African countries start doing from a financial or economic perspective?
No, I don't understand. When you say you don't know what to do with it, what do we want to say?
No, I'm just saying that, some countries do have crude oil, but we still import anyway. We still import from foreign partners. The technology the wherewithal to man it is also a different conversation. So now, looking at the situation where we find ourselves in, when our prices are going very high, and as you've explained, importing it is going to be very costly. What should we start doing?
That's a very interesting very, very interesting question. And, you know, the whole world, people have never understood how this oil business is done. And honestly, the oil industry is a different world altogether. So a country can have oil, but the oil have investors. So those investors are those who own the oil that is within the country. So if you take Ghana, you take Nigeria, you take Angola, you take Gabon and others, the investment is done by foreign countries, foreign companies who own the drilling of the oil. So the host countries will have shares within the production quotas that are extracted within the period. So when you take Ghana, for instance, we have oil, but we don't have the money to extract it. We don't have the money to set up the companies to extract it.
Yeah.
So that is why foreign countries come in, explore, discover, and then they bring in the companies to come and drill the oil. Then we take our portion. And you know, our portion is so small because we do little, so much as to the investing in the companies that because it's a very high-tech, heavily invested companies. And the thing is that these companies also belong to what we call OPEC countries. That is Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. So these countries have their companies that extract the oil, and they determine the amount of oil that needs to be extracted at a time so that they can control the price. So if oil price is, let's say, $100, the companies that are drilling in set by OPEC, companies that are drilling are giving quotas so as to maintain the $100 amount. So Ghana, for instance, they can say you will produce, let's say, 100,000 barrels a day. And Nigeria, let's say 2 million barrels a day. Angola, let's say 5 million, and that will maintain the $100 price. So if there are issues affecting the export process, then OPEC will look at the cost that is coming in. For instance, if the oil can't come from the Hormuz area, they may have to either rely on Saudi Arabia through the Red Sea ports, or probably fall on Angola and Gabon and others to do more. And recently, about 3 or 4 days, the US president has managed to get the partner countries to release about 400 million barrels of oil to sort of cushion the price. And these are factors that normally determine the movement of the prices. So African countries could have oil just like others, but they are being operated by foreign countries. And they all depend on the world market price. They all depend on the world market price to determine how much the oil costs. That is why they are able to explore that maybe from next Monday or from this period, oil will go up by this price. That is determined by the OPEC countries. And of course, these can be influenced by other factors like the release of the 400 million barrels could then come in and affect the price that will come up. These are the way that things are done. So we could have the oil, but we don't have the technology. We don't have the intensive capital process to be able to extract the oil. It's just like our gold. Our gold too is sitting at Obuasi and Prestia and all those places, but are we able to extract? We don't have that mechanism, that kind of capital intensive. When you go to Obuasi, you see. If you have been on the oil rigs around Cape 3 Points area there, you see how it is. It is not a joke. And it's a huge cost, which we don't have. So ours is just to allow them to come and extract. Then the little that we get, we bring it into the system.
But having this problem in view, Do you think that it's something we can get there? If you look at our economic situation and having this problem in view, do you think we can get to the point where we can be able to invest money, or the capital requirement is too high that, let's say Ghana, we can never invest in drilling our own oil?
Oh yes, that one I agree with you that we don't have that money that can be able to drill our oil in commercial quantities. It's unfortunate we don't have that, because that technology also keeps on improving. We used to drill some oil at Salt Pond, and we have abandoned it because the machines that they are using are so old, you can't get the spare parts to even repair them and extract those few oils we're getting from the Salt Pond oil fields. And the same process goes on day in and day out. The technologies are changing. When you go to, let's say, the thermal energy, you get to the thermal energy facilities, for instance, it's the same thing. Our plants are old. When you go to thermal, VRA plants are old. You go to Abuaze, our plants are getting old. It's difficult getting spare parts. If the plant goes down today, it means they have to shut it down and get the manufacturers to go back and try and manufacture that part. So it's not a joke. That is why sometimes we have this instability in our energy sectors. And it's like that. The technology keeps changing. We don't have that capacity in any way. Look at Oil Refinery. Look at the way we are struggling. Almost all the time we are just painting them and all that to try to see if it can deliver. But the problem...
Recently we are told it's been revamped.
The plant is old and it doesn't have that kind of capacity to be able to do the work that it was set up in the 60s for it to refine oil and others.
But recently we were told that the tour has been revamped and that we are looking at, in the coming months, some very impressive work to be done there.
Well, it's easier said than done, in my opinion. That issue, as a tour issue, more or less has become political, in my opinion. And today we say this, just like the Commander Sugar Factory. Today we say this, today we say that, because we always want to use that in one way or the other as a political tool to undermine the other political party that was in power here and there. I understand some work has been done there, and we are all watching. I haven't been there of late, and we'll find out exactly what has been done and pray that at least some oil can be refined from the place. In that case, we can get crude oil. If it's crude oil, it's easier to obtain from Gabon, from Nigeria. You can easily get the crude oil. But we cannot get our crude oil from this place because the quantities are not enough. And for now, we have to depend on these external sources, especially Gabon and Equatorial Guinea and then Nigeria, where we can get the crude. And crude is like, crude oil is like, normally I liken it to be something like cassava. Cassava has different types.
Yeah.
You have your white one, your brown one, your whatever. It's just like that is how crude oil is like. So if you are able to get the better crude that contains the oil, the quality oil, in which you'll be able to extract the petrol, you extract the diesel, and then you can get kerosene and other products from it. Sometimes, if you don't get the better the crude properly, you extract and you don't get much, and it makes most of these refineries run into losses. And those are some of the challenges that come up when you set up your own refinery and you are unable to get the quality crude oil, let's say a good cassava, which you can eat, even eat raw and use it to pound fufu, and when you make gari, it becomes very sweet. That is how it is. So if you don't get the good crude and able to refine and get the quality petrol, quality diesel, quality kerosene, quality bitumen, quality gas and others, then your refinery is likely to run into troubles. And those are the reasons why most of these small refineries in Africa and others are unable to work. And it's the same thing that affects things like gold and others. If you want to refine, which recently, and even like cocoa processing plant is sitting there, we haven't thought about how old that plant is. And we are now saying that we want to take a greater portion of our cocoa here and refine it. And we haven't thought about the capacity. We haven't thought about the market that is supposed to be sold to. Because these quotes are such that if you don't go into proper agreements with them and get proper arrangements put in place, if you refine or you process your own cocoa, when you send it there, they won't buy. Because it means it is also going to affect their industry there. That is why I have a very big challenge on the processes that we want to put in place as far as our cocoa is concerned. And this is just a small digression. I hope maybe one time we can have a better understanding of the cocoa industry as it is today and the proposals that we want to do. It is good if you only want to, process your own raw materials, but you should know that when you process, these whites will find ways and block the sale of the product. And if you don't take time, it will lead to a collapse of your industry. They've done it to Malaysia when they were producing most of the rubber products, ties and others. And eventually they had to do a turnaround because they need the raw materials. And when they get them, they are able to get so many things out of it. So many things out of even this oil. When they send it to Europe and those places for processing, they get so many byproducts out of it. And recently I saw some small particles that they use to produce rubber items, these chalotes and others that they derive from these petroleum products. And I was very surprised because actually I've never heard about those small particles that they are able to extract and then put together to produce these items. Which some countries, I think it's Nepal and others, have been using to produce some of these rubber products. So a lot needs to be done. World market dynamics are very technical.
Yeah.
And if you don't work your way well, you end up losing massively. And that is certainly going to affect the development of your country.
But I mean, speaking of the world market, and from what you're saying, looks like there's not much Ghana can do in this situation we find ourselves in. Recently, I think the MPA informed us that they had about 5 to 6 weeks reserve of oil, which clearly, as they have predicted that from about next week there's going to be fuel price increases, it suggests that our reserves have gone down. Now, do you think that looking into the future, Ghana must build a bigger reserve? In fact, is that possible? Can we build larger reserves that we can show up fuel products there to keep us for a longer period in such situations?
Well, it depends on our priorities, on our limited resources. As long as the world can police the situation in such a way that oil prices can be a little stable in order to affect the economies of these small countries. And the issue to me will be good if we are able to sort of extend our storage to about 3 months, for instance. And if we are able to extend our storage to about 3 months, then that will be good enough. But it will be a lot of cost because building the facilities is one, and then two, managing them, and then three, locking your capital into the stock, which we all know that if you lock your capital into stock, it has a significant effect. And these are the challenges that have led to China and most of these European and Americas now trying to move into these sort of electric vehicles and others, so that they can minimize the use of crude oil and other fossil fuels, and then maintain their storage facilities. And we all know that America has the biggest storage facilities, which the president has indicated that going west, they will be able to release a portion to cushion the world market. And now that they have also managed to take over Venezuelan oil, it is also a good thing that will be able to improve on the oil pricing. And then also Saudi Arabia and other OPEC countries like Angola and others are being urged to increase production. And these are ways that we believe it may not be able to affect the world market prices so high as is being probably determined if all these factors sort of are put in place. Then also we need to sort of look at the trend as for how long this war is likely to last.
Yeah.
Day in and day out, when you look at, and the most tricky thing that is happening now is Iran attacking its neighbors. And you know, the underlying factors with this is that the investment in the Gulf states, if you take the Gulf states, all those Gulf states are friends to America. So the investments that have been made there are highly from America and Europe. The oil facilities in the Gulf states all don't belong to the countries there. They are mainly joint ventures and other investments. So those companies that are, because those countries made friends with America and Europe, that is why they have invested heavily there. So when you take Dubai and you take Abu Dhabi, you take Doha and those countries there, those cities there, they have been built from the country's portion of the oil that they get. And you know, just yesterday, US is reported to have struck this little island at close to the Hormuz Strait, which is controlled by Iran. And that facility marks the turning point, because that is where Iran has its base actually, and because its trade is close to the strait, and they have a lot of oil from that side, and they have all the ships loading mainly from that side or making a transit there to refuel and before exiting there. So America builds bases in these Gulf states that are being attacked by Iran now because they are to protect the investments that Europe and America have made in the Gulf states. They are just not there, let's say, just being there. They are there to protect those investments that they have made. And now that Iran is attacking those bases, it is like attacking the countries themselves, because those bases are there to protect the joint ventures and others that have been done by European countries and American countries, by American companies. So that is why it is now likely to drag the war, because when you attack those bases, eventually you are attacking the investments in the oil companies that are in the Gulf states.
Yeah.
And so that is why the Gulf states are also angry at Iran for even attacking the American bases. And you know, America too will use those bases which are closer to Iran to also go and attack them. And they too also have to retaliate by attacking these, US bases. And it's not only US that has bases there. France also has some bases in Iraq and some kind of Saudi Arabia and others, because they all have interests that they have invested there. So it's a very technical issue. Once they attack those places, it's likely to drag the war, because it will make the Americans angry that you are attacking the bases that are protecting the investments in those countries. And that is why the Gulf states are also angry that those ones are also affecting them, because they are joint investments with Europe and America. And that is why those countries are developing, because there have been massive investments there. I was in Doha somewhere in November last year, and I tell you, if you see the city, it is not a joke.
Yeah.
And all these have been built by the joint investments from Europe and America. And most of the companies that are doing the real estate of those skyscrapers and others are from Europe and America. So those investments are supposed to be protected by them. And Iran all along has been eyeing, you know, the coexistence between the Gulf states and America and Europe, because they are fundamentally against the presence of America and Europe, even in the Gulf. So that is why they are attacking these countries. And the way they are attacking them is likely to prolong the war, because the American president is insisting that they have to break down Iran's fortress so that they can even go ahead to escort ships from oil tankers to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. So I surely don't see the end of the war immediately, because you can see that they really need to do a little more work before Iran can be broken down, because Iran has been armed for a very long period, since the Iranian Revolution took place, which is about 47 years ago. It has been a consistent build-up of arms and building their military, all in the anticipation that they will be able to defeat Israel and turn the land over to Palestinians. And that has been their target. And, you know, the other Gulf states also don't agree to that one, because they believe in the UN resolution that it should be a two-state existence. And they have taken advantage to be friends with America, to be friends with, some are friends with Israel, because they have even started opening diplomatic relations with Israel, all to keep the oil business flowing and then keeping the world peace at bay, and also making oil available to least developed countries for their better use.
Interesting. Now that we can't see the war coming to an end, we don't see any end in sight. Since about last year, we had enjoyed some benefit on our dollar prices and our exchange rates going down. Now, with this problem coming up, what do you anticipate is going to be the effect on the dollar and the exchange rates?
Good question. That is why we are all trying to sort of forecast. I think government has taken the initiatives to see how we can get additional crude oil from our neighbors in Nigeria, and then closer Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, and recently the president even got as far as Angola. So those are processes that we believe, if we are able to put in place, we can increase our storage a little. And then with Tema Oil Refinery, we understand also coming up, we are praying that if it is able to work as we are all thinking, then we can do some processing here. I think we should also revisit our agreement on our own oil extraction. We understand, or we are all aware that the oil extraction is going down a little, but thank God we are discovering a new source near Aflao area there.
Yeah.
And we are praying that if we are able to get that one online, and then we can improve on our oil production. So we only have to look at our portion that we are also supposed to get, and then we look at the agreement that we have with our extraction companies and convert that one to oil and then refine it at Tema so that we can use that to sort of beat down the prices.
But do you think that will be
It's-
possible,
it's-
especially since you mentioned that we do not even have the capital? So you're going to have some investors who are pumping in huge capital. Do you
Yes.
think that's going to be possible?
Yes. Yes, so we have an agreement with them that we have a portion of the extraction. So that extraction portion is what we can agree and convert it to oil. If we convert that one to oil, we can process it at Tema and then use it to reduce our dependence on the imports. And you know, we import because we don't get enough. But as I said, what we extract all doesn't belong to us. We have just a small margin out of it.
Yeah.
And that one will not suffice the usage in the country. And even in that one, you can't easily refine it until now that we are having the Tema refinery coming up, we can convert that portion into oil quantities. And then instead of exporting our portion to, then we can refine it here and then use that to
Use that one
you know,
locally.
supplement the quantity, yes, the quantities that we can use locally.
But now again, not having the end of the war in view, people too have made calls on us now rethinking the use of fossil fuel in our economy for us to now start looking at more renewable sources. In certain places, you've seen that now there's been a rise in electric cars and all that. Do you foresee the world moving there? Just as when COVID came, we were not used to a lot of technology and used to these online platforms. But COVID brought a rapid shift that today, in fact, when people think of meetings, they first think of a virtual source before they think of an in-person one. Do you foresee that, or do you think it's going to be possible that this problem we are having on fossil fuel may cause a real shift in our use of fossil fuel across the world, that we may transition to renewable sources like electricity and all that, solar and all that?
These are very interesting points. And as I said earlier, despite that all those are cheaper sources of fuel, they are expensive. Their capital build-ups are expensive. And when you take VRA, for instance, VRA moved into solar. And then now when you go to Laura and then Kaleo area, there's huge solar portion. But the point is how big is that percentage to our consumption? Solar, as it is now, contributes a little, despite all the investments that have been made and the proposed investments that are also supposed to be done. And when you go to Bui, for instance, Bui Power has also invested in solar on the river, on the dam itself at Bui to generate some power. But the point is, solar doesn't give us the quantities that we need. You need a very vast area to be able to do that. And as I said, that technology also keeps changing here and there. It doesn't last like the diesel engine oils that are sitting in our diesel trucks and others that are around to cut loose from the hinterlands. I think what is really needed is that we need to look at our waterway transport systems. We also need to look at our rail systems. If we are able to develop those alternatives, we will reduce the dependence on diesel and trucks in transporting, goods and services within the country. Look at how the tankers are causing accidents and killing and maiming people all here and there. And this doesn't happen in most countries, most of the advanced countries, because transportation of oil and others are done by rail systems.
Yeah.
Most of these rail systems are even underground and so forth. And we are sitting on the ground and we are still using all these old-fashioned facilities. I was in UK last year, and when you look at this, the railway systems, and you look at the way cables are laid at the stations and extending long spans, and these cables are there protecting and ensuring that the rails work effectively. Most of the railway stations even don't have, serious securities and others. But our place here, what do we see? You put railway line there, and the people will remove the rails and all the facilities and go and sell, destroying them. And then we use road to transport the oil, go to Takwa area. We use trucks to cut bauxite. You construct the road, and short time the road is destroyed. Short time the road is destroyed. This Takwa road was built beautifully in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
You use just about 30 minutes from Takoradi to Takwa. Then suddenly the railways broke down because some people acquired tracks with their bounty monies and decided to use the tracks to cut the bauxite. You can see that the removal and destruction of the rail system is our own internal make.
Yeah.
Because some people want to cut the bauxite with their trucks. They want to cut the bauxite with their trucks and take the money. We Ghanaians are no more as patriotic as we used to be in the 60s, 70s, where we were to think about our countries first. For some time now, all that we do is to destroy the fabrics of our infrastructure, destroy our facilities that can provide the rail transport, that can provide the vehicle transport, smooth and good roads and others. You build road today, short time the road is destroyed. Then it becomes a political tool. And then we go back to square one. Because all the monies we get, we take them back to go and do the same thing that we have been doing every day. We will build so many kilometers of road as one political party will say. You turn around and either they are destroyed or they are nowhere to be found. And so another political party will use it as a tool. We spend the rest of the resources on it, and then the cycle goes on. Where are we heading to? So we have a big challenge as individuals and as people in the country and as a government in the country. That is where we are lacking. And if we are unable to see our way clear, we will never, ever progress in our development.
I mean, that's a very interesting dynamic you bring in there.
Yes.
Would that also mean then that with all these problems going on, if government can just now decide to reorient even our internal structures, our internal importation in other sectors, there could be a cushion for us from these oil issues we are having?
Yes. From the arrangements and plans that are being put in place, I can see some element of cushion.
Okay.
Because the projected prices that are being put up, I think they are still also being looked at as for whether it suits the storage facilities that we have, and therefore the oil marketing companies are likely to increase their prices that high.
Yeah.
And I also believe that with the interventions that are being made by increased production, by the projections that are being put in by OPEC to increase production, and also the discharge of the extra reserves that are there, and then increased production from Venezuela, which is becoming very stable now.
Yeah.
I see that even if the war will go another month or something, the measures put in place may be able to cushion our systems. Otherwise, like you mentioned, it's likely to affect our inflationary positions, because as we increase the the price of oil, surely transport costs are to go up. It will affect foodstuffs. It will affect everything in the system. Workers will start agitating to look for cola and others, and it's likely to push our inflation up again, having tried hard to bring it down to the single digits that we are experiencing now.
Yeah, but I was even asking of now, cushioning the other sectors. So let's say if we're going to increase our prices of imports of oil is going higher, now we should now focus on cutting down imports of, let's say, rice, or imports of, let's say, toothpick, so that it will be able to give us good balance of trade figures. Don't you think that's also, a good option for government?
Well, for food production, I don't think we'll be able to cut down on food, rice imports and others, because
or even with all the governmental policies they are trying to introduce homegrown measures, you think that's not going to be possible?
No, not now, not immediate. We still don't have the capacity to be able to produce what I normally call the taste of the rice that the ordinary Ghanaian will like.
But government is very optimistic about that they can. Even take chicken with the new what's the name, project on Nkunku. Recently, when the president addressed it, it looks like it's in full scale, which we are foreseeing, or which ordinarily in the short to medium term we should be able to cut down a lot even on chicken importation.
Yeah, as you said, you are saying medium to long term.
No, short to medium.
As I said,
short to medium.
No, in the short process, I don't see if you are talking about short in an economy, you are talking about a period up to about 6 months, and that is too short for most of these policies to come up. In reality, these processes don't mature within a year's process. So if you are talking about cutting down chicken imports, you are only trying to raise the cost. Recently, there was a ban. I think the Minister of Finance announced the ban on importing rice by road.
Yeah.
Which is basically normally from Nigeria. And if you do this, because a few customs people have been recalcitrant and taking money and allowed some oil to pass, then it's like a fly chopping your saw small, and then you hit it so hard as to get the saw to bleed. You see, sometimes they are hasty and hasty decisions that when you don't think about the broad masses and how it's going to impact the economy. If you ban it, you are saying that the people should now go and make arrangements and fly the oil or let it come by sea. And you don't think about the period that you are going to create for the oil to come by sea. And it will come to the same port. And that same port also have its rot that if you don't solve it, this thing that happened at the border will also come up. We have human issues, and we have corruption, which has embedded into our blood so huge that, we are unable to get things done as rightly as people who are supposed to think about the nation first. And because of that, government also takes decisions that in the long run goes to affect scarcity of the products in the market. And when you create scarcity, it means you are pushing prices up. And when you push prices up, you are creating inflation. Because the demand is there. People are still earning the money. In the country, people are earning money. This Galamsey and others, people are earning money. Look at the cars that you are talking about that people are buying. Where do they get the money from? People have money in this country. And if goods and services don't come in as regularly as possible, you can't control inflation. Because whatever price you put it, if they decide to fly the cooking oil or they decide to let it come by sea, the people will buy, no matter the increased cost. It is the corruption that we should be able to fight to its lowest ebb. And that is what is creating all the problems in this country. When you take this rice issue, what is happening? We have created taste for outside or imported rice.
Yeah, foreign taste.
Rice,
yeah.
Yes. The local rice we are producing don't match the taste of the imported rice. Despite all the health challenges that we are educating people that the local rice has the best health and so forth, people are adamant. All they need is they taste the thing and it's good.
They say it's not nice. They say when you eat it with stew, it's not nice.
I'm talking about the imported one.
The imported one, okay.
Because, the local one, when you do it, you see that it's not nice. It's true it's not nice, but me, that is what I take because when you add good stew, then it makes up. And because it has that nutritional content and the good health, that is what I take, you see. But how do you get Ghanaians to get good stew or soup to match the local rice? It is also cost. When you take the household budget, your wife will tell you that the huge expenditure goes into soup and stew. Because if it's only fufu you want to pound, how much is cassava? How much is plantain? Yeah. But what about the tomatoes and look at now the cost of tomatoes as a result of this Burkina attack. Now you can't buy tomatoes. Meanwhile, if you are using local rice, you have to get good tomatoes to match it, to match the stew. So when you take the dynamics, there are so many dynamics that take place. So if government is taking certain decisions, they have to be very cautious and don't rush into banning things and doing that because somebody has taken money and let loose some trucks that were carrying oil. Tighten your security systems and employ skilled and manpower people that you pay them well as to avoid corruption. When you approach a policeman in Europe, it is different from approaching a policeman, excuse me to say, in our country.
Yeah.
Because the policeman here, when he even has to arrest somebody, he's scared. Because when he's arresting the person will say, talk to my boss or talk to somebody. And the policeman will say, go away. That is why there's so much problems on our roads, so much problems and everywhere. So we have fundamental problem, and that is corruption. And the fact that we are unable to keep our institutions very well paid and make them, to sit down and think about the country first. Because it's the country that puts the money in the person's pocket. But if the country doesn't put enough in the person's pocket, what do we expect? What at all do we expect? So those are the challenges. This oil, if we can go through all those processes and say that we want to refine our portion, we want to put in a little of our reserves, we want to quickly run to our neighbors and beg them for a few cargoes to come and strengthen our systems and all that, it will help. We don't have to sit down and expect that people will go and buy electric cars. I mean, where do we find the money to go and buy them? And Abossey Okai people will also start shouting that they are not getting business. And the old people with the old cars to say, when you go to Abossey Okai, the engines and others, the parts are expensive. And it all boils down to the cost of running the country. And we have issues.
That's intriguing. Dr. Obi, I know you'd have to go shortly, but let me just take maybe about your final words. So with all of this, all we have discussed, let's say if you were to speak to now let's say the MPA boss or the ministry, or even the finance ministry, what are you going to say to them? Especially when, again, we emphasize that we can't see the war in end. What are you going to say to them so that we, the ultimate consumers, don't suffer too much from a condition happening somewhere that ordinarily should not concern us?
Yeah, thank you. As I said, this is a very broad issue. In my opinion, we should bring in a few of our reserves to cushion the price so that we can maintain our macroeconomic indicators and stable them as we are moving forward, because if we try to destabilize them right away by increasing fuel prices, to bring the cycle that we all know back, where workers will start complaining, drivers will start complaining and increasing prices, workers will start looking for increase in salaries and so on and so forth, some cola to cushion the system. So they should bring in a little of our reserves to cushion down the price. They should quickly start running to our Nigeria friends and Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Angola, and arrange some kind of deliveries as quickly as possible. We can't increase our storage capacities immediately because this war was unforeseen. You can see that both two parties, Iran and America and Israel, were all on standby, and it was just waiting for the first person to strike. Because when you followed the negotiations that they were doing, you could see that it was just like some cosmetic.
Yeah.
And it wasn't unexpected that the strike came as early as possible. And then I can see that because Iran knew that their Gulf brothers are their brothers, I'm sure America little anticipated that they will attack their bases in their own Arab brothers' lands. Because you are attacking the base, you can be sure there will be a spillover that are likely to affect your brothers. It's not only the base that will be affected. In war, you can't say that you can have 100% target. Definitely some will slip over and kill your own Arab brothers. So nobody expected that Iran would attack their own brothers in that way. And because America and Israel have asked them to hold on, not to attack back, they will do their job. That is why we all believe that it won't be a short war as we are all thinking. We are anticipating that probably in the next month, it's more likely that the war will not end. So that is why we are looking at those ones. Then I will say that the waterways transportation and the transportation of oil by pipelines and the vessels at Akosombo and the newly built place on the Volta Lake that is still hanging on should be revived, so that we reduce the use of tankers that cause accidents. And when the accident is caused, it's not only the human beings we lose, we also lose the quantities of the oil that are destroyed, which is also part of the whole process. So we should look at a more safer way, as we have all developed, to try and improve on transporting these oils across the country. As for the electric vehicles, it needs money. They are not cheap. And people have to look for money and move to that side if they can acquire it, given the limited resources that are available to government workers and the people within. We can only see these vehicles in the cities, and we don't know how suitable they will be for my village road into the Manson area there, where the Galamsey and others are also destroying our cocoa and so on and so forth, and our lands. So basically, we have to quickly move in and get extra oil. I'm also proposing that we quickly convert our portion of our oil that is being produced into crude quantities and refine them in thermal oil refinery if we all agree that it is in good shape as you are hearing. And we only pray that it should be in good shape so that we can get good crude and then refine them and get all the byproducts. And then we'll be able to maintain the microeconomic indicators and keep the country as smooth as possible.
Thank you very much, Dr. Obeng. I mean, we are truly grateful for the insight you have shared on this issue. And thank you also for joining us this morning to help us do good justice to the rising global oil prices and what it means for our economy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right, we'll take a very short breather here. When we come back, we will wrap up on the rising global prices and what it means for our Ghana's economy. Do not go away.
101.9 FM.
Is still the focus on Z101.9 FM. And we've been having a conversation with Dr. Kenneth Kwadwo Obeng, who has been speaking on the rising global oil prices and what it means for the Ghanaian economy. Dr. Obeng indicated quite clearly that looking at the nature of the conflict in the Middle East, we can't see an end to it clearly. And so there's a need for us as a country to start cushioning ourselves. We should be able to put in measures, buffers, so that this conflict is not going to affect us too much. And he speaks of renegotiating our agreements such that, as in our agreement for the extraction of oil in this country, that our share of that booty should be transferred to, or should be given to us in a form of crude oil, so that we can refine them and use it here, so that we don't have to depend entirely on imported fuel. He also speaks of the fact that we must fix our transport channels, especially our railway and our water channels, so that transportation also, especially of our material, raw materials, can be reduced on the roads, and the use of these fossil fuel will be reduced. Indeed, would have to think clearly as a country, and from a policy perspective, we should think clearly of how we can ameliorate this problem that is ongoing, because at the end of the day, it is the ordinary consumer, it is you and I, who is going to suffer. Government has put in some measures anyway, and as was mentioned by Dr. Obeng, some measures have been to negotiate with some other countries to see how we can buy alternative fuel, so that we are not hit too much by these rising in global oil prices. But let's see what the next few weeks hold. But as it stands, we are told that from the 16th, prices are going to go higher for LPG, for diesel, and for petrol. Government is working very hard, and we're hoping that the next few weeks are not going to be as catastrophic as the figures are pointing to. Many thanks for staying with us on The Focus. Thank you for joining us, those of you who tune in on our radio 101.9, those who join in online, and those who join on our social media platforms, on our our Facebook and our YouTube channel. We say we are very grateful. Thank you for spending your Saturday morning with us. We'll come your way again next week with another conversation which challenges us as a country to do better. Indeed, we have just one Ghana, we have just one Africa. We have a time bomb of Africa of 2063, that's Agenda 2063. The measures we are putting in place today and tomorrow are those which are going to determine whether by 2063 we are going to have the Africa that we want. That puts a duty on myself, it puts a duty on you to ensure that we work hard at bringing Africa to a place where we can say this is the Africa that we want. Thank you very much and have a very good weekend. My name again is Kweku Atakra Jumo, and I've been your host for today. As Ghana Month, do well to wear something representing Ghana. Do well to do something which will make Ghana a better place for us all. Thank you and God bless us all. Have a very good weekend.
You're tuned in to Z101.